Thank you so much for tuning in today for SheBoss. This is a very special day. I wore this shirt specifically for this woman sitting next to me today, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But I am absolutely honored to be sitting with Bobby Bradley, having coffee this morning for SheBoss. You are such an amazing woman who our community knows very, very well. So thank you so much for carving out time to chat with us today for SheBoss.
Well, I am honored to be here and honored that you asked me to do it. So, yeah,
Absolutely,
I'm looking
absolutely.
forward to it.
It's gonna be great. So we have had the absolute honor of getting a chance to get to know an organization that Bobby has been so heavily involved with over the past couple of months, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. But as we got involved with this organization, a local nonprofit here in the area, Bobby's name kept on coming up and surfacing in so many different capacities. And I was blown away that number one, you and I hadn't had a chance to meet prior to this. But number two, I was like, who is this woman? And how do I just need to meet her because you have made such generational impacts in our community and, have worked in the corporate world, have overcome so many challenges and have had so many wins and successes in your career. Is I've had an honor of just getting to hear just a mere snippet of it over lunch, but it's fascinating and something that in your history here, in your family's history here in this community, goes so deep. And it's just, you've got such a beautiful story. So I'm just honored to be able to help share just even a little bit of that this morning. And would love for you just to kind of start off by talking just a little bit about you and your background and where you came from. And then we're going to dive into some of the big projects that you've been working on.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I'm eager to share and thankful that I can share. And I always start every presentation that I do with kind of giving thanks, first of all, to God, because He's been so good to me and my family and the things that I have attempted to do. And I think that He has been the one that has made it possible for me to do it all. And then to my parents. And that kind of starts my story because they were just from my perspective, the ideal people. And I thank God that He placed me with them. I could have been in with any other family, but I was an only child, so I didn't have siblings, but I had a village, and I lived in a small community here in Huntsville, right in the center of town. And we had a great relationship with all of the families in that community. Everybody loved on each other, and the kids all knew each other and played together and very well. And every parent in the community was a parent of every child. Mm-hmm. And so I had the love of my parents who had high hopes and expectations for me. And then the whole village, the whole community had high expectations of the children in the neighborhood. So I use that a lot of times as kind of an example of what I want to create in the neighborhood in which the Village of Promise is working now, just to have that same village community that everybody's supporting everyone, and we have high expectations of the children in our community. That's what we want to do, is transform the community. Yeah. Anyway, I grew up in the early 50s and had the opportunity early on to attend a private school. There were nuns and priests that came to Huntsville in the 50s to start a private school for African-American children. I grew up, this was during the time of segregation. Mm-hmm. And so they started this school for us, and they walked the community once they came and encouraged all of the parents to send their children to what was then St. Joseph's Mission School, but has now become Holy Family School. Mm-hmm. It's still here in existence and still thriving, but they looked for us, they nurtured us, they created this environment where we all loved going to school, and I credit that experience from second grade until eighth grade as the foundation. And really, the reason, one of the main reasons that I have been able to do as much as I have been able to do is because of that foundation. So I'm a big believer in strong, disciplined academics, and also a big believer in early childhood education, because I believe that if you get that strong foundation early on, that it's the probability of your success is increased significantly. Yeah. And so I always look at that again as an example. One, strong community. Two, strong foundation academically. And so I thrived in that environment. But then after I left in eighth grade, I went to a segregated school for 1 year Council High, which was a local school. And that next year in the 10th grade, all of the schools were integrated. And so I was in one of the first groups to go to Butler High at the time. And so I spent 10th grade to 12th grade at Butler.
Wow.
And it challenged us, but it created this sense of wanting to achieve again. And I realized early on that I was not an athlete. I wasn't a singer or anything. I knew that realized quite early that my gift was my intellect. And so I set a goal again, drawing on these things to incorporate in what I'm doing today. I'm a big believer in having dreams. And so when I went to Butler that first year, I said, nobody spoke to us. And so we were kind of walking around as islands almost.
Because
But
of the color of your skin.
because of the color of my skin. And I decided that I was going to be inducted into the National Honor Society.
You decided that's what was going to
I
happen.
decided there were no blacks in the Honor Society, and I said I'm going to do it. And setting that goal and that dream for myself, and I actually achieved it. And so that really was an accomplishment for me. One and two, it created this confidence that I had now, surely in my intellect. I knew that was what I was going to use in order to achieve some other things I wanted to achieve in life. And then I always say this: one person can make a difference in someone's life, because, like I said before, nobody spoke to us. But one day, the guidance counselor came up to me and she said, this was probably into my 11th grade year, and she said, "Where are you going to college?" And I mentioned a few colleges that I knew about, friends had gone, and she said, "Well, some of the Ivy Leagues are looking for strong minority students. You should consider applying." And she said they give scholarships, and I think that you could do it. And so I said, well, okay, and was really surprised that she would even make that offer, or make that suggestion. And so I did. I applied to several schools in the Northeast, but I said I really don't want to stay home. I don't want to go to school in Huntsville. I want to get away, but I don't want to get too far. So I applied to Vanderbilt, and they actually gave me my best offer. And so I decided that's where I was going. And of course, even when I went there in 67, the fall of 67, I was only one of 100 blacks in the whole in the university.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
And so that was a little daunting, but still I knew that, I could do it. And my dream then became to go and graduate in 4 years. My parents didn't have, in fact, I was on scholarships and I had a loan. My parents, actually, I remember this, they had to pay $400 a semester. And for them at that time, that was a lot of money. And so I said, I don't have time to come up here and fool around. I've got to come up, do the best that I know I can do, and then get out of here in 4 years. And so that's what I did.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, I'm just rambling on.
I
But
no, I love it. Well, it's very clear that your parents were so influential on your upbringing and your family. If you have some, other members of your family there, and being an only child growing up during that time frame, I couldn't even imagine how challenging that must have been as a parent. I would love to hear a little bit more about them and what really instilled them in you to dream and to dream big and to follow through with those dreams. And
I tell parents all the time, tell your children what you know they need to hear. Tell them the truth. They may not hear it. I didn't hear a lot of things that my parents said at that time. It went in, but as I got older, things started to come back. And I remembered the things that they told me. First of all, my father was a high school graduate. He was not a college graduate. My mom did finish college. She went to Alabama A&M. She became a teacher, so she was a teacher. But they both were examples for me of character. One, hard work. They always said, nobody's going to give you anything. You've got to work for everything that you get. Don't expect anything. If somebody gives you something, be appreciative, because they don't have to do it. Number two, set a goal, go after it, and don't let anybody take you off your dream. Be nice to people. Be nice to people. Know that as you're going up, you're going to meet people. Be nice to them, because if you don't, they won't pay any attention to you when you fall. And so never burn bridges. Don't burn bridges. And then, one of the most important things, I was talking to someone just recently and they made this comment and I said to myself, that really fits me. He said, I never remember a time when I did not know God. And the reason why is because I heard it in my household. My mom, my dad were Christian. And so there never was a day in my life that I didn't recognize the importance of God in your life. And I believe that's how we all make it through. And I know that's how I did, even though I wasn't. You're looking back, you have 20/20 vision, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Right.
And but I really realize now just how much I was blessed through my experiences. But I got it from them.
Yeah.
Children don't know it, but you have to be the example for a lot of things. And so
Yeah.
they were the example for me. And they go back. Huntsville's important to me because I can go back at least 3 generations of family here. And so when I graduated from high school, I said, when I graduate from college, I'm not going back to Huntsville, right? And I got my best job offer here. So I ended
Go
up coming
figure.
back. But it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
There again, you don't know what you don't know. You have plans, but God has other plans. And so
Right.
it actually was a good thing that I came back here. But
Yeah.
I always wanted to make my parents proud. That drove me probably more than anything. So one of my dreams after I graduated from college was to be in a position to succeed well enough that I could one day take care of them the way they'd always taken care of
Oh,
me.
love
I
that.
never remember a time when my dad did not have 2 jobs.
Yeah. Wow.
And my mom was a teacher. She was out during the summers, but she would do things, she would work during the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So I always wanted to do things. And I remember my parents took me to Vanderbilt. That first year, they dropped me off. I had 1 trunk, and they never came back until I graduated, until they came back for my graduation.
Wow.
They never came back on the campus. They were working and busy
Yeah.
and all that. I came home during the summers to work,
Yeah.
but they never came back. And not I don't I'm not saying that negatively. I'm just
Right.
saying that one, they trusted me.
Yeah. They let that be yours. Yeah.
They let that be me,
Yeah.
but but they were busy,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so I remember when they came for graduation, I can remember the expression on their faces. I knew that they were proud, and
Yeah.
that meant more to me than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh, that's
that was
amazing.
an accomplishment for me, just for
Yeah.
them to see
I
that I
love
had
that.
done it and done it in 4 years,
Yeah.
and was leaving with a job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and coming back to
And
their
coming back,
hometown,
yeah, coming back
which is
home.
even better.
Yeah,
I'm sure they
yeah,
were just,
yeah,
loving that.
thrilled. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I could have gone other places, but
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
wanted to come back.
So let's talk about that first job offer, and that
Yeah,
was bringing you back, and the great opportunity as you've kind of talked about, and
yeah,
the history that has sort of propelled you into is
yeah,
just painted such a beautiful career for you. So let's
yeah.
talk a little bit about that.
Well, I came back to work. I had worked during the summers from college at Northrop,
Hmm.
and so when I graduated, they made me an offer, permanent offer, and that's again shows the importance of internships. So I
Yeah.
talk a lot
Yeah.
to young people about having internships. People get to know you, they know your work
Hmm.
ethic,
Yeah.
and they're looking for strong young people
Hmm.
to employ, and so they hired me. I had a dream again at that time that I wanted to at some point have my own business. But I thought it was going to be in something else, retail. I've always been
Yeah.
a person that liked clothes and shoes. So I thought it was going to be doing something in retail. And so even though I worked initially for Northrop and then subsequently for Computer Sciences Corporation, I always had a part-time job in a retail store.
Oh,
Just kind of
really?
get a feel for what it's like
Yeah.
and determine whether I really wanted to do it. But at the end of the day, I decided that was not going to be it. And so after 4 years in private industry, I then went to the government. I spent 15 years with the Army here
Hmm.
on Redstone
Hmm.
and worked through those jobs. And then a colleague of mine, two colleagues, and I decided in 1989 to start our own business. And we had tried some other things before.
Hmm.
Like I said, I'd been in retail. I did the Amway business for a number of years
Yeah.
part time,
Yeah.
but then finally decided we decided, why don't we do something that we were trained to do in an area
Yeah.
that we were trained for? And so in 1989, we started the company Computer Systems Technology.
Can I ask, so what was the moment that sort of clicked for you and your business partner at that time that really got you thinking that? And not everybody has a dream to start their own business one day,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
They just don't. And so what sort of inspired you all to, did you find something in the market where there was just an open opportunity, or did you have a particular
No,
customer need that gave you a unique, like, what was
no.
it that started that?
My one partner and I had worked the Amway business together, and we had built it up. Actually, we had an organization of, he did, because I was his partner, of about 1,000 people in the Amway business. But we realized that that's not something that you can sell.
Mm-hmm.
We would have to continue to work it and work it and work it to continue to generate the revenue and the income. And we said, why are we doing this? Why don't we start something for which we were trained to do?
Mm-hmm.
I had met him when I first started with Northrop some years ago. So we had maintained that relationship over the years, and we didn't have an opportunity. We just said, we know that we can do this. We're technical people, so let's start this company. I was working for the government. He was in private industry, so it would have been a conflict to go to work to get contracts at that time with the
Yeah.
government. So we said, let's do some retail work, not retail, do some commercial work. And so we got a couple contracts in the commercial sector that I could work with them at night and on weekends.
Okay.
And then one of the defense contractors asked us to submit our resumes for a proposal that they were doing. And so we said, okay, well, they won. And then they came to us and said, we want y'all to come to work for us. We said, no, how about you bring us in as a subcontractor with our company? And so that launched the
Ah,
company
smart. Yeah.
without us having, and then of course, having that subcontract allowed
Yeah.
us to leave our jobs and still have
Right.
income.
Yeah.
And so we were able to do that in the summer of 1989, and that launched the company for us. So we
Wow.
ultimately had an opportunity, but we didn't start with that opportunity.
Yeah.
We found some commercial work first to establish the business and generate some financials and be
Wow.
ready when the
Yeah.
opportunity presented itself. So that's
Yeah.
how we got started.
And you ran that business for how long?
14 years. Yep.
Wow.
We again had a dream. We said we want to build a company, and in 10 years we want to be at 100 million in revenue. That was the goal.
Yeah.
And we talked to people they came in. They said, if we told them, we said, if you help us do it, we will share in with the rewards that we'll
Yeah.
have from that success. And so in 14 years, we got there, and we had a company that came and said, hey, are you interested? And so we pulled the executive team, and together and said, we have this offer. Are y'all ready? And everybody said yes after we talked about it a little bit. And
Wow.
that was in 2003.
Yeah.
Hmm.
How was that feeling for you of like walking away from something that you had poured so much of your heart and soul into for so long,
Well, it was the realization of a dream.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we said is we wanted to share it with people. And so we shared some of the success, one. And two, we sold to a company that was an ESOP. So
Mm.
everybody in our company that went to SAIC became
Employee owners. Yeah.
employee owners.
Yeah.
So it was really
That's a
just that
win-win.
it
And
was just a win-win.
yeah.
And they kept us together as a standalone business unit. So it was like we were still our company, but yet under the umbrella of a larger company. So I
Yeah.
stayed for a year, and then after that kind of transitioned. And,
Yeah.
you know,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Well, you hear a lot of startup stories here in Huntsville naturally because of the landscape that we're in and the
Hmm.
environment that affords
Yeah.
opportunities, right? Which has just been amazing. Looking back at having your business during that time frame, as to use your phrase, hindsight's always
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
What could you have told maybe your younger self as you guys were getting started about things that maybe you didn't anticipate? Like surely, you and I
We
were
had
talking.
challenges. I
Yeah.
mean, those 14
Yeah.
years were not without its challenges.
Right.
But,
Or some of the big that maybe
the
some of the themes that sort of surface out of that for you?
one is have that dream for the company, just like you have a dream for yourself.
Yeah.
That is the thing that pulls you through the challenges.
Yeah.
Set those goals for yourself and the company,
And make sure
and
everybody's on board
make
and
sure
yeah.
everybody's on board. The other thing we said, the three partners said, if we help enough other people get what they want, we'll get what we want. So
Mhm.
our focus was on the employees,
Yeah.
of course, the customers first, but we viewed our employees as the second set of customers that we had.
Mhm.
So we wanted to make sure that they had what they needed in order to do their jobs, that they saw opportunity for themselves with our company.
Mhm.
And one of the things I always said is two things. You don't work for me. I work for you.
Mhm.
I work to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to do your job well.
Yeah.
And then secondly, even if you leave the company, when you leave, we want you to say, that was the best company I ever worked for.
Yeah.
And so I've had several people to come back, and since we sold and we've gone off and done other things, they say, "Well, let me know if you're ever going to start another company." I said, "No, no,
You're like, "Been there, done
no,
that.
I've
I'm
been there, done
good."
that."
Well, and then
But
you decide to start a nonprofit.
yes, and that I hadn't planned.
Yeah. So you alluded a little bit to this early on, when we were just kickstarting this conversation about some of those fundamental things that are so important to you, and
Hmm.
some of the things that you recognized as a child that were
Yeah.
critical for the
Hmm.
continued success and in just that safe environment that you were able to grow up in and
Yeah.
thrive in. And
Hmm.
ultimately, that led you and a business partner of yours to start a nonprofit here
Yep.
in this area
Yep.
called the Village of
Hmm.
Promise.
Actually, it was Gloria Bat. She and I grew up in that village,
Hmm.
and so I had been working with another nonprofit here, Lincoln Village, and had really seen the struggles that some of the community members in Huntsville have. And I said,
Hmm.
she and I both said, we cannot go about our merry way knowing that people have challenges and are living like this. And
Yeah.
so at the same time, we became aware of a very successful organization in New York called the Harlem Children's Zone and the success that they had been having.
Hmm.
And we said, we believe we can replicate that here in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And the whole idea was to eradicate generational poverty. That's the long-term vision.
Hmm.
And you do that by establishing a series of programs. We call them a continuum of services from cradle to career
Hmm.
to make sure that they have everything that they need in order to successfully enter a career and be able to sustain themselves
Yeah.
in their lives. And so that's been our um, vision from the beginning. The other really important principle that they use and we've incorporated is you target a neighborhood. You can't
Hmm.
do it for the whole city.
Right.
You just don't have that capacity. So focus on one specific neighborhood and then plant your flag and then start doing the work. And
Yeah.
so we've been doing that since 2011. We've had a
Wow.
number of successes with children, young people that we didn't start with as infants.
Yeah.
So I don't think we think it's important to start as young as you can,
Yeah.
but it doesn't mean that you can't have success with some that
Hmm.
you start with much later. And we've had
Absolutely.
successes like that where we have young people that are now working in careers and doing
Hmm.
quite well. But at
Hmm.
the same time, ideally, we want to start with them as infants and then follow them and their families all the way through this
Yeah.
continuum and
That's
to
amazing.
break the cycle.
Yeah, and getting an opportunity to learn more about the village. You hear about different nonprofits and what they're doing. That model, modeled after the
Uh,
Harlem's Children's Zone, is what a unique
mm-hmm,
model
mm-hmm,
to mirror. And it's mind blowing to me because not only are you there helping some of these kids who are less fortunate and may not
mm-hmm.
have those opportunities available to them, but you're meeting their parents where they are
Yes,
too. That way, you don't
absolutely.
have that burden on them
Yes.
to get their kids to childcare or to be
Mm-hmm,
able to get their GED if they don't
mm-hmm.
have a
If
high
they don't
school
have it.
degree, provide them with financial literacy. That way
Mm-hmm.
they can get themselves out of the cycle, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then break that for their own family.
And
Uh,
encouraging, believe it or not, it's a lot of times it's just encouraging people.
yeah. Yeah.
We sometimes know what we need to do, but you just need that encouragement and
Right.
somebody that you can talk to and can guide you to the resources that you may need.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what your parents do.
Right.
Really, we're really kind of supporting this family unit that my parents guided me until I could take it on myself,
Yeah.
and so we're doing the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Gosh, I love that so much.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Well, and you hear so often, and again, this wasn't necessarily afforded to me until we got involved with the Village of Promise, but you can provide funding to an organization all day long, right? But if you can't understand sort of those burdens or barriers that recipient may
Hmm.
still have in their
Hmm.
life beyond that
Yeah.
initial fund or
Hmm.
beyond that initial gift or whatnot, it doesn't necessarily, it helps them, but it
Yes.
doesn't help them in the capacity that really meets them where they are
Yeah.
within their life. And I think that's
Mhm.
where you get that hamster wheel,
Yeah.
right? Where people just can't get off of
Can't
it
get off.
because they don't know where to go. They
Where
don't
to go.
have the resources. They don't know what questions to ask because
That's
their
right.
parents were in the same situation as they were. And so you just repeat this cycle of generational poverty. And the model that the village and your team are instituting, I mean, it's game changing for an
Game
entire
changing.
neighborhood.
Game
And it's
changing.
just it's such a unique approach to helping meet people where they are
Where
and
they
pulling
are.
them out of,
And believing in them. And
absolutely.
believing in them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So the
And I'll say something else too. We're not the organization that can provide everything.
Yeah,
We
right, of
can't do
course.
that. But we're big believers, as the Harlem Children's Zone is, in partnering. And so for those services that we don't provide, we focus on education
Yep.
and family support. But for those services that we don't provide, we'll partner and connect our families and scholars to those organizations. If it's health related, there are organizations in Huntsville that focus on health.
Yeah.
There are others
Yeah.
that focus on housing.
Yeah.
There are others that focus on food, mental health, whatever it is. If we don't provide it, then we partner with others who do.
Yeah.
And that leverages the resources of all the organizations by working together. So we're big believers in collaboration and partnering.
And if there's one community that helps to fuel that, across the board from our city on down, I mean, this community is definitely that one,
Definitely.
So the Village of Promise, they have 2 huge events that you guys do throughout the course of the year.
Yes.
One, earlier we were fortunate to go with Nate Oakes at the Speaker Series event.
We're already
Alabama.
planning the one for April, and
do you already have someone?
We have somebody in mind, but I'm not going to share it just yet. It's going to be great.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, number one, the Speaker Series event is huge. And what an amazing opportunity to get a chance to not only just re-engage with the Village of Promise, but I mean, I think everybody walked away just feeling like a new person after that speech, because it was just so, he has his own personal story and connection to what you all are doing here. And Nate Oakes is the Alabama basketball coach, right? And
achieved a lot in the short time that he had been there. And it's not all about athletics either. A lot of it is about character and some of those soft skills that we all need. And so we wanted him to share that.
Well, and I love that.
Yeah, and that's part of what we would want to do with our speaker series, is bring thought leaders to the community that can share that. And people walk away like you did and say, oh, wow, I learned something, or I didn't know that, and I'm going to implement it, or I know now how I can help. And the one that we're bringing in April will be of that same caliber. So I can't wait to share it. But then the other one that we have is, I think you were going in this direction, is One Table. And we were handed that event by a group of young professionals several years ago. They did it the first year and closed down the square around the courthouse, and everybody brought food and invited the whole community. But they said, this is a lot of work, and we're working, we're going to hand this off to a nonprofit. So they called us and asked us to do it. And so we took it on. And I remember when we were doing some planning some years ago, the strategic planner said, where's Huntsville's living room? And we thought about it, and we said, well, we don't know. But we later thought it's Big Spring Park.
Big Spring Park,
Yeah, that's the Huntsville's living room, where anybody can go and feel comfortable. And so we decided to start doing One Table in Big Spring Park, where we set up one long table. Now it's many long tables. And we provide Thanksgiving meals for everybody who comes. It's open to the public. There's no program, no ask. It's just people coming together and getting to know one another. We have a tagline that says, come as strangers, leave as friends.
Oh, I love that.
And just a day to be thankful and to celebrate each other and get to know one another and enjoy the day.
That's
and
amazing.
We've had good days almost every year. We didn't do it one year in COVID, but we had a drive-by. So people could drive by two different locations and pick up their Thanksgiving meal.
That's amazing. What a neat, seeing, and I've been to one event, but seeing the photos of the one table is really, really special.
Yeah.
You can tell it's a very special, intimate event.
We have babies, dogs,
everything,
every person from every walk of life.
And I feel like it's nobody walks in with any other agenda aside just from being and engaging with community.
Engaging with community.
Like, which I love, because you just, it's you're nobody else, but just besides someone just in the community
Yeah,
wanting
come
to.
into their
Exactly.
the
Yeah.
community's living room.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I love how, I mean, I could talk to you for hours, and your story and your background and I couldn't imagine, being a mother, and during that time,
Mhm,
and going to the first school of segregation,
mhm.
it's just all of those things. I think, you don't realize,
Yeah,
other people's stories,
you don't,
and
you don't, and
it's
you can't compare yourself to anybody
no.
else. God gives each one of us a path,
Hmm.
and it's a path for a reason that He
Yeah.
has a purpose in. And so our whole aim in life really is to figure out what that purpose is and then walk in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
And you are doing such a beautiful job of that, I will say. But thank you so much for everything that you do for our
oh,
community, and
I'm
just,
just pleased to do it. I just get enjoyment out of it. And my husband says, "When are you going to stop?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. Just whenever I can't do it anymore, then
well,
I'll stop."
I was going to ask, speaking of the theme that has sort of resonated throughout this discussion, what's a big dream on the horizon for you?
No, I think
Mhm.
to see Village of Promise sustainable, where it doesn't depend on me, and
Yeah.
it's going on its own. It's going to go
Yeah.
on into the future one, and then spend time with my family. We
Yeah.
have two great grandbabies, and
Mm,
just have more time to
enjoy
be
it.
with them, which we do now. But just
Yeah.
take each day as it come. We can't predict how long it's going to be, but I'm just grateful for every day, and
Yeah.
knowing that I'm in good health and doing what I believe I'm been called to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't ask for more than that,
Nah,
right? It's
nope.
pretty
Can I?
great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Bobby, so much for
I've
joining us.
enjoyed
I
it.
know we so appreciate you, and we'll be cheering you on from the sidelines as you continue to bring Village of Promise, to the
Thank you
next
for
level.
your
But
help. Yes.
absolutely, yes.
Yes.
All right. We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much.